New maid saw. Everyone ignore the CEO's autistic daughter, until she asked her to dance with me. The Hartley estate rose like a quiet cathedral on the hills of Boston, bathed in the amber glow of late afternoon. A grand stone manor framed by ivy-covered columns and glass-paneled doors. Inside, the chandelier-lit ballroom shimmered with soft music, polished shoes, and curated smiles. It was the annual Hartley & Co. investor reception, a night where fortunes mingled and expectations tiptoed behind champagne flutes. Chloe Sanders adjusted the front of her crisp uniform, tucking a loose strand of blonde hair into the bun secured neatly at her nape. First day on the job. The agency had said, private estate function, but nothing had prepared her for this. The formality, the frost beneath the elegance. She weaved through the crowd with a tray of hors d'oeuvres, eyes scanning velvet gowns and cufflinks that sparkled beneath crystal lights. There was a scent of lavender in the air, but beneath it, something colder, something untouched. Then she saw her. In the far corner of the ballroom, almost swallowed by shadows, a little girl sat cross-legged by a silk-draped window. Her pink dress was rumpled at the hem. Her halo of blonde curls shimmered as she turned a small music ring in her hands. Again, and again. Her eyes never lifted. Not to the people, not to the music. No one else saw her. Chloe's brow furrowed. She looked around. The servers passed without pause. The guests never glanced her way. She leaned toward the woman coordinating the staff. "Excuse me, who's that little girl?" The woman barely turned her head. "Miss Amelia, Mr. Hartley's daughter. She's all by herself. She prefers it that way. Just leave her be. She doesn't like people." Chloe said nothing, but the tightness in her chest lingered. She returned to her work, but her gaze kept drifting to that corner. To the girl, to the silence around her. When the ballroom lights dimmed and a string quartet began a graceful waltz, the guests flowed like silk onto the dance floor. Chloe paused at the edge with her tray now empty. Amelia hadn't moved. Still, turning that little ring, still untouched. She set the tray down quietly. With light steps, Chloe crossed the ballroom, her shoes a hush against the polished floor. She crouched beside the girl, careful not to startle her. "Hi," she said gently. "I'm Chloe." No response. Just the soft click of the spinning ring. Chloe paused. Then, slowly, she extended her hand, not to grab, but simply to offer. "Would you like to try dancing with me?" For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, the ring stopped turning. Amelia's fingers hovered, and then, barely, reached. Her small hand rested in Chloe's. Chloe stood, holding the hand as if it were made of glass. She led Amelia gently toward the edge of the dance floor, far from the crowd, just close enough for the music to reach them. She began to sway, just a soft back and forth, guiding without pressure. Amelia stood stiff at first, but with the next measure, her foot moved, a half step, then another. A rhythm formed. Then the ballroom stilled. Not the music, not the movement, but everything else. Conversations paused, glasses lowered. A hush fell over the room like snow. Even the violinists seemed to soften their strings. At the edge of the crowd stood a man in a tailored charcoal suit, his gaze locked forward, a wine glass forgotten in his grip. Liam Hartley, CEO, widower, father. He didn't blink. His daughter, who hadn't let anyone near her in years, was holding hands with a stranger and dancing. His knuckles whitened around the glass, his jaw flexed, his face unreadable. Grief, awe, fear. Across the floor, the girl in pink turned beneath Chloe's steady hand. And for the first time that evening, Amelia smiled. Faint, fleeting, real. The music carried on, but another melody, quieter, more fragile, had begun to rise. A language of rhythm and trust whispered into the space between them. Where silence had lived for too long, something had just stepped in. Something like hope. The guests had long since departed, the music faded, and the ballroom was quiet once more, Empty glasses were gathered, crumbs swept away, the chandeliers now dimmed to a soft glow. Chloe walked back into the kitchen, heart still fluttering from the moment on the dance floor. She half expected someone to scold her for crossing a line. Instead, the butler, an older man with a kind but formal air, glanced up and gave her a small, surprising smile. "You're the first one to make her smile," he said simply. Chloe blinked. I'm sorry if I stepped out of line." He shook his head. "You stepped in, Miss Sanders, where most people walk around her." Chloe looked down at her hands, still remembering the tiny warmth of Amelia's fingers. "Does she ever talk?" she asked quietly. "Not in years," the butler said. "Amelia's been different since birth. Diagnosed early. Sound and rhythm seem to calm her. She doesn't do well with loud voices or touch. Most just avoid her." There was no judgment in his tone, just quiet sadness, as if he'd lived among these silences too long. Later that evening, as Chloe was gathering her things to leave, a voice stopped her. "I'd like you to stay." She turned. Liam Hartley stood at the hallway's edge, shirt sleeves rolled, jacket over one arm. His face unreadable, his voice steady. "Sir?" Chloe asked. "You handled her with care," he said. "Most people treat her like a problem to be solved. You didn't. That means something." Chloe hesitated. "I didn't do anything special." "You didn't look away," he replied. "That's rare enough." A pause. Then, "I'm offering you a long-term position here. Permanent, if you're willing." Chloe searched his expression for any hint of what this truly meant, but there was only quiet gravity in his words. She nodded slowly. "I'm willing." That night, unable to sleep, Chloe wandered the second floor to familiarize herself with the house. The corridor was lined with framed sketches, furniture designs, pencil renderings of arches and chairs. Subtle beauty, all hand-drawn. She passed by Amelia's room and noticed the door slightly ajar. Inside, the lights were dim, and a small screen glowed in the corner. Amelia stood in front of it barefoot, pink nightgown brushing the floor. On the screen, a grainy video played. A woman in a white tutu spinning gracefully on a grand stage, arms curved like wings. A ballerina, graceful, strong. The woman looked just like the girl in the room, if she had grown up. Amelia stood still for a moment, then began to sway, mimicking the movements. Not perfectly, not with polish, but with effort, with memory. Chloe remained outside the doorway, watching, unmoving. She didn't know the full story yet, only fragments. But something about this child, dancing alone to a ghost from a screen, told her more than any words ever could. The house was full of expensive things, polished wood, velvet curtains, gold-rimmed frames. But what echoed most was the absence of touch, of voice, of warmth. And yet here, in the quiet dark, Amelia was dancing. And Chloe knew, without being told, that this was only the beginning. Morning light spilled softly into the sunroom, filtered through high-arched windows and gauzy curtains that swayed like whispers in the breeze. Amelia sat cross-legged on the carpet, her hands turning the tiny silver handle of a music box. It played the same delicate melody over and over, high notes falling like glass rain. Chloe had heard it many times but never asked. Today she did. "That's a beautiful sound," Chloe said gently, kneeling beside her. "Can I see it?" Amelia did not speak, but after a moment, she slid the music box across the floor. Chloe lifted the lid slowly. Inside, a tiny ballerina spun in place, twirling to the tune. The box was old, its lacquer slightly chipped, but well cared for. On the underside of the lid, a name was engraved. Grace. Chloe's breath caught. She had seen the name before, in an old photo by the staircase, in a whispered comment from the butler. Grace Hartley, Liam's late wife, Amelia's mother. The ballerina figure inside the box wore a miniature white tutu. Chloe remembered the video. Amelia swaying to a dancer on a stage. The same grace, the same silence. That evening, Chloe pulled out a soft rug in the sunroom, cleared space by the piano, and played a slow piece on her phone. She knelt and tapped her fingers lightly on the floor, 1 to 2, 1, 2, 3. Amelia watched, still as stone. Then, slowly, her foot moved, a light tap in rhythm. Chloe smiled and rose to her feet, letting the music guide her. Nothing complex, just a turn, a sway, a soft slide across the wooden floor. She held out her hand. Amelia stood. No words, no eye contact, just quiet mimicry. Step by step, she mirrored Chloe's movement, clumsy, halting, but precise. Like her brain translated rhythm more clearly than speech. From that day on, they danced a little every afternoon. Chloe used movement to speak. A wave for hello, a tap for stop, a twirl for joy. Amelia responded in kind, building a language without words. A world made of motion and music. It was in this rhythm that Chloe began to understand the child's grief, not as silence, but as memory, as something living. One cloudy afternoon, Chloe passed the laundry room and overheard two maids folding linens. "She's dancing again," one of them whispered. "Who?" "Amelia, with the new girl." The second woman lowered her voice. "He won't like that." "Who? Mr. Hartley? He forbade anyone from playing ballet music in the house. After the accident, he said it was over, said it destroyed everything." Chloe felt a shiver crawl up her spine. That evening, as the sun dipped low, she and Amelia danced again, this time a little faster. Amelia let out a breathy sound, almost a laugh. Chloe turned, twirling gently, letting the girl lead. And then the door opened. Liam stood at the threshold. He didn't speak. His eyes locked on the sight of his daughter spinning. Chloe halted mid-step. Amelia didn't notice. She kept moving, softly, her pink dress brushing her knees, the music box melody echoing from a speaker nearby. Liam's jaw tensed. He took a step forward, then another. "I told the staff," he started, his voice tight, sharp. "I told them not to. Bring that back into this house." Chloe froze, heart pounding. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. She responded to it. "I wasn't trying to." But Liam was already turning away, his shoulders rigid, his voice low. "It doesn't belong here anymore." The door closed behind him with a soft final click. The music faded. Amelia had stopped spinning. She looked up, sensing something broken, her hands twisting the hem of her dress. Chloe knelt beside her, whispering, "It's okay, sweet girl." But deep down, she wasn't sure if it really was. She had opened a door, one lined with memory, grief, and something Liam Hartley had spent years trying to lock away. And now, it was open. The next morning, Chloe rose early, packed her things, and left a note on the kitchen counter. "Thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry if I crossed a line." She didn't explain more, didn't dare. Her heart was heavy as she slipped out the servants' entrance, passing the garden where Amelia had once spun in circles beneath the falling petals. Chloe paused, wondering if the little girl would notice she was gone, wondering if Liam would care. By evening, a light rain had settled over the Hartley estate. Thunder murmured faintly in the distance, low and tired. Chloe's apartment was small but warm, tucked above a flower shop in Beacon Hill. She had just turned off the kettle when a knock sounded at her door. Gentle, hesitant. She opened it to find Liam Hartley standing there, drenched under his umbrella, holding her crumpled note. "I don't want you to leave," he said simply. Chloe stepped aside without a word. Liam entered slowly, shaking off the rain. He didn't meet her eyes at first, just stood there, studying the steam rising from the untouched cup of tea on the counter. "I reacted badly," he admitted. "I was surprised, caught off guard." Chloe nodded. "I understand. It wasn't my place." Liam finally looked at her. His expression had shifted, no longer stern, but tired, frayed at the edges. A man unraveling slowly. "She looks like her," he said quietly. "When she dances." Chloe didn't speak. My wife, Grace. She was light. That's the only way I can describe her. When she danced, it was like the world bent around her, like nothing dark could touch her. He paused. That night, her final performance, she brought Amelia backstage. I told her not to, said I'd pick her up after, but Grace insisted. Said she wanted Amelia to see beauty before the world taught her anything else. He swallowed hard. The crash happened on the way home. Grace died on impact. Amelia, his voice cracked. She was in the back seat. The doctors said she suffered a brain injury, not severe, but enough to affect language, affect how she connects. Chloe's eyes filled, but she didn't interrupt. I buried Grace a week later, Liam said. And every time I looked at Amelia, all I could see was what I'd lost, not because of her, God, never because of her, but because I failed. I should have been there. I should have driven. He rubbed his temple, breathing shakily. After the funeral, I locked Grace's things away. I thought it was better to remove the reminders. No more ballet. No more music boxes. No more spinning. He let out a bitter laugh. But Amelia never stopped. She found her way back to it anyway. I just chose not to see it. Chloe stepped closer, voice soft. I don't think Amelia stopped hearing you, or feeling you. Liam looked at her, pained. She doesn't speak. No, Chloe agreed, but she listens. She crouched down, mimicking the small motion she used with Amelia. When I tap the floor, she said, she taps back. When I twirl, she follows. When I stop, she does too. It's her way of talking. Liam's eyes glistened. I know she misses Grace, but I also think she's trying to come back to you, in the only language she has. The silence stretched between them like a string pulled tight, and then, gently, Liam sank into a nearby chair. He looked older suddenly, not in years, but in weight, as if the grief he'd held for so long had finally been given permission to settle. She called me Daddy once, he whispered. The day she was born, just a gurgle really, but Grace swore she meant it. Chloe smiled sadly. She still does. Rain pattered against the window like a lullaby. Liam leaned back, eyes closed for a moment. I don't know how to fix this. You don't have to, Chloe said. You just have to show up. She'll meet you halfway. And for the first time in a long time, Liam nodded, not as a CEO, not as a man with all the answers, but as a father ready, finally, to begin again. Progress arrived quietly. It did not knock or announce itself. It came in the form of a shrug. One morning, as Chloe helped Amelia stretch in the sunroom, she asked gently, "Was that fun?" For the first time, Amelia didn't look away or continue spinning. Instead, she paused, thought for a second, then shrugged her shoulders. A small, almost imperceptible motion, but a response. Chloe's breath caught in her throat. From there, the changes came like petals opening in spring. Amelia began choosing songs, soft piano pieces, lullabies, even a delicate violin duet she insisted on playing every afternoon. Sometimes, she would walk over and tug gently on Chloe's sleeve, eyes steady but silent. It meant, "Let's dance." She still didn't speak, still avoided most touches and eyes. But in those quiet rehearsals, she became something else, graceful, focused, almost luminous. One rainy afternoon, while searching for clean linens in the storage room, Chloe came across a dusty trunk. Inside, carefully folded in tissue paper, were the worn but still beautiful ballet slippers of Grace Hartley, faded satin, hand-stitched initials. Chloe held them like relics, unsure whether to be heartbroken or honored. She brought them to Amelia without a word. The little girl ran her fingers over the ribbons, then clutched the shoes to her chest like something sacred. She didn't let go of them for the rest of the day. That evening, Chloe approached Liam in his study. The fireplace flickered low, casting soft gold along the spines of his architecture books. "There's something I'd like to ask," she said, hesitating in the doorway. Liam looked up, eyebrows raised. "I'd like to organize a small performance, just for her," Chloe added. "Just a few people. The greenhouse would be perfect. It has space, light, and she feels safe there." Liam didn't answer right away. His fingers tapped lightly against his glass of scotch. "She's never performed for anyone," he murmured. "Not even me." Chloe nodded. "But she's ready. And I think she wants you to see—" A long pause. Then Liam nodded once. "All right." 3 days later, the greenhouse glowed in the late afternoon light. Lanterns hung from the ceiling beams, casting soft halos across the floor. The garden beyond swayed gently in the breeze. It smelled faintly of rosemary and fresh soil. Only a handful of people were invited: Mrs. Alden, the butler, the gardener, and Liam. Chloe kept it intimate, respectful of Amelia's world. The music started. Light, familiar. Chloe stood off to the side, watching, holding her breath. Amelia stepped into the center wearing a simple white dress and her mother's ballet slippers. Her movements were slow at first, deliberate. She spun once, arms lifting in a practiced arc, then paused. Her eyes scanned the small audience and landed on Liam. He was seated in the back, hands clasped, jaw tight. He had not moved since she entered, but something in his posture shifted as Amelia's gaze met his. Then, without prompting, without hesitation, Amelia opened her mouth. Her voice was soft but clear. "Daddy, watch me." The room froze. Liam's hand slowly lifted to his mouth. His eyes brimmed with disbelief. Mrs. Alden let out a gasp. Even the gardener took off his hat, lowering it to his chest. Chloe felt the sting of tears. Amelia did not wait for the world to catch up. She turned, arms outstretched, and began to move again, more freely now, as if speaking had broken something open inside her. Each step was music. Each twirl, a story. When the song ended, the silence held. Then Liam stood. He did not speak. He only walked to the center of the floor and knelt, arms open. Amelia hesitated for a single beat, then ran to him, pressing her face into his chest. He held her tightly, as if he'd just found something lost long ago. From the edge of the greenhouse, Chloe watched. The first drop had fallen, and it would not be the last. The day after the greenhouse performance, the air in the Hartley household felt different, warmer, lighter, as if some unseen curtain had finally lifted. Liam had not spoken much that evening, but when he carried Amelia inside, he held her close, with a quietness that said more than words. From that moment, he began to appear more often, not just in the periphery, but beside them. He stood at the doorway during Amelia's morning stretches, watched silently as Chloe helped her balance. Some days, he joined, clumsy at first, uncertain where to place his hands, how to move, but Amelia didn't mind. She would reach out, guide him, giggle once when he tripped on his own foot. One afternoon, he brought an old record player down from the attic. "She used to dance to this," he murmured, setting it up in the sunroom. The soft crackle of vinyl filled the space, and Chloe watched as Liam sat cross-legged on the floor beside his daughter, letting the music settle into his bones. The man she had once thought cold and distant was slowly becoming someone else, someone whose silences meant thought, not dismissal. Someone whose hands, though large and work-worn, could move with gentleness. And Chloe, despite herself, began to see him not just as a father healing, but as a man learning how to live again. One late afternoon, rain tapped gently against the windows. Chloe had just gathered her things, coat in hand, ready to head home. She turned the corner into the hallway and stopped short. Liam was standing there, holding a record sleeve in one hand, his other tucked nervously into his pocket. He looked up, startled by her presence. "You leaving?" She nodded. "Just about to." He hesitated, then stepped forward, offering the record cover. "It's one of Grace's favorites. I was thinking of playing it. Just thought it would be nice." Chloe smiled softly. She had good taste. Liam opened the door to the now familiar sunroom. "You ever danced?" he asked, not quite meeting her eyes. Chloe's breath caught. "Not really." Just, with Amelia. A pause. Then Liam set the record on the player, adjusted the needle. The soft swell of a piano began to rise, old and golden. He turned to her. "I haven't danced since the night she died." His voice was quiet, unsteady. "But if you don't mind, would you?" He extended his hand, uncertain. Chloe hesitated, heart fluttering. Then, slowly, she stepped closer and placed her hand in his. They stood there a moment, swaying to the rhythm, learning one another's pace. Liam moved stiffly at first, every step a question. But Chloe guided him gently, her touch light but sure. The room felt suspended, time folding in on itself, rain blurring the world outside into soft watercolor. At one point, he looked down at her, a half-smile playing on his lips. "I didn't think I'd ever do this again." Chloe didn't answer, only met his gaze, steady and kind. And for a few minutes, there were no ghosts in the room. Just two people, learning to breathe in the same tempo. Later that evening, while tidying the bookshelves in Liam's study, Chloe reached for a stack of folders. As she moved one aside, something slipped from between the pages and fluttered to the floor. A ticket. She picked it up carefully. It was for a ballet performance. Swan Lake, final curtain, featuring Grace Hartley. The date stamped in the corner was 3 years old. Chloe's eyes lingered on it. The edges were worn, the paper slightly creased, but intact, preserved. She turned it over. On the back, in faint handwriting, one word had been scribbled. Always. She stood there for a long moment, holding the past in her hands. And somehow, without needing to ask, she understood. Liam had never really let go. But now, maybe, just maybe, he was learning how. The late summer sun streamed through the tall windows of the Hartley residence, casting a golden glow on the polished floors. The evening was quiet, intimate, a reception for longtime investors of the Hartley Design Company. Soft jazz floated from a string quartet in the corner, champagne glasses clinked gently, and low conversation hummed beneath the music. Chloe stood to one side of the ballroom, watching Amelia through the open doors leading to the garden terrace. The little girl wore her favorite pink dress, twirling slowly to a rhythm only she could hear. Liam had agreed to let her dance. Nothing official, nothing rehearsed, just a moment, a small gesture of courage. Amelia had tugged Chloe's hand and pointed to the terrace just before the guests arrived. It was the first time she had ever asked. Chloe lingered near the French doors, staying close but letting Amelia have the space. The child moved gently, fingers fluttering like butterfly wings. Her steps were unsure, but honest, real. Guests began to notice. Conversations faded. A few people drifted toward the open doors, watching from a respectful distance. But not everyone admired the scene. Near the back, a man in a navy suit leaned toward another guest. His voice was soft but carried. "Why is she letting her do that? No one wants to see a kid like that dance. It's awkward." Chloe froze. Her shoulders straightened, fingers curling slightly at her sides. She turned to face him. "Excuse me?" The man raised his brows. "I just meant, it's not a good look. For the company, or the brand." Chloe stepped forward, voice low but steady. "And that," she said, "is why children like her grow up thinking they don't belong. Because people like you decide they're not right for your comfort, for your image, and they learn to shrink." The man's lips parted, but another voice cut in. "I suggest you stop talking." Heads turned. Liam stood near the entry, still, calm. The room stilled around him. He walked forward, passing Chloe without a word, his eyes fixed on the man. "If anyone here," Liam said, "sees my daughter as an inconvenience, or believes she has no place in this home, in this company, or in this world, you're free to leave. Tonight. And don't come back." No one moved. The man shifted, tugging at his collar. A few guests looked away. Others stared down into their glasses. Chloe scanned the room. No one spoke. No one stood up. But no one applauded either. It wasn't victory, but it was a shift. Liam's voice softened, but carried. "My daughter is not broken. She is not strange. She is simply herself. and I won't let anyone make her feel less than that ever again." From the terrace, Amelia had stopped moving. She stood quietly at the threshold, watching her father. Her hands were still, but her fingers fluttered slightly, as if reaching for something unseen. Liam turned and held out his hand. Amelia hesitated, then walked forward, step by step, across the hardwood floor. She placed her small hand into his, and they stood there, side by side, not hidden, not pitied, seen, unapologetic, whole. The old theater smelled faintly of velvet curtains and worn wood, soft and welcoming in its imperfection. Chloe had spent weeks helping prepare it for this moment, scrubbing the dressing rooms, setting up the lights, organizing the parents of the other children invited to join the little show. But it was Amelia's name, written at the very top of the program. Swan Lake, Children's Variation. A modest audience filled the rows. Family, friends, supportive teachers, a few cautious board members who now saw things differently. And in the front row sat Liam, his hands clasped in his lap, eyes fixed on the curtain. He was not a man known for nerves, but tonight he held his breath. The lights dimmed. A hush swept through the crowd. The music began, gentle, familiar, the opening notes of Swan Lake floating out across the theater like memory itself. Then came the soft patter of small feet. Amelia stepped onto the stage in a white dress, her blonde hair braided into a simple crown, and on her feet, Grace's ballet slippers, just her size. Chloe had found them weeks ago, wrapped carefully in a silk scarf at the back of an old chest. Amelia began to move, slowly, purposefully. Her arms opened like wings, her toes gliding with surprising grace. She did not perform with the precision of a ballerina trained for years, but her steps had soul. Her movements held emotion, the kind that only came from dancing not with the body, but with the heart. She twirled, dipped, and finally, just as the music swelled, spun into a final, perfect pirouette. The room was utterly still. Then, applause erupted, loud, full, rising to the rafters. Some clapped with hands to their mouths, others with tears in their eyes. Liam stood slowly, hands trembling. Chloe, beside him, turned to look. His face was wet with silent tears. But Amelia wasn't done. Instead of bowing, she turned. She walked to the edge of the stage, her little slippers padding softly. Then, without a word, she reached out, first for Chloe, then for Liam. Two small hands, gently tugging theirs toward her. They hesitated, stunned, then stepped onto the stage, unsure what came next. Amelia didn't speak. She simply placed their hands together. Liam looked at Chloe, startled, then smiling, something soft and raw breaking through in his eyes. He leaned slightly closer, voice low enough that only she could hear. "Grace always believed someone would come," he whispered. "Someone who wouldn't look away. Someone who'd help me see her again. You were that someone, Chloe." Chloe swallowed, her throat thick. "She chose well," he added, glancing at Amelia, who now stood between them, calm and still. The spotlight held there, on the three of them, hand in hand, the applause swelling once more like waves. A few weeks later, Chloe accepted Liam's offer to become Amelia's full-time tutor and companion. Not just a job, but a bond, something lasting. Liam went one step further, announcing a new scholarship fund in Grace's name, dedicated to supporting neurodivergent children in the arts. "Because every child deserves a stage," he said at the press conference, "and someone who believes they belong on it." Amelia, in her pink dress, stood beside him that day, and Chloe, just behind, watching, eyes warm, heart full. Not every family is born. Some are built, step by step, note by note, dance by dance. And under the theater lights, one such family found its way home. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey, a story not just about loss and healing, but about the quiet power of being seen and the courage it takes to reach across silence with compassion. If this story touched your heart, helped you see the world a little softer, or reminded you of the strength love can hold, even in its most fragile forms, please consider subscribing to our channel. And if you want to help us keep sharing more stories like this, stories that stir the soul and light the dark, hit that hype button and support soul-stirring stories. Because sometimes, one story is all it takes to bring a little more light into someone's world. See you in the next story.